everyone. On today's episode, we are joined by director, actor, writer, and producer Scooter Corkle. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. So today we're going to talk about your new film, The Friendship Game, which opens in theaters, also on digital and VOD and on demand on November 11th. But first, let's get to know you a little bit, man.
Sure.
All right. So we were able to talk with many actors and directors that have had huge success in horror genre, but are also not huge fans of horror. Do you consider yourself a fan of horror?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of horror. There's no question there. I think I'm not an encyclopedia of horror.
Yeah.
I'm an active audience member for the most part.
Okay. Now, how did you get into horror?
Again, I've always sort of been interested. I mean, my first short film, we did it in 48 hours during something called the Bloodshots Film Festival. And that was in Vancouver. And my first one was as a horror short. That was two elderly ladies, one of which has the power to control people's minds. So I think I've always been interested in that genre, especially as a filmmaker. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Working with blood and working with fear and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've always sort of been into it. And the older I grew, the more drama was sort of dragging me along. And then I think I'm in a spot where elevated genre stuff is really my favorite.
Okay.
Kind of branching through different genres, multiple genres. Really character focused stuff. That's sort of where I lie now.
Okay. Now, what are some of your favorite films?
I think this question was going to come up, and I should have prepared better. I mean, I think my favorite films kind of vary. Like forever, Punch Drunk Love was one of my favorite films.
Okay.
And There Will Be Blood, I think, is one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
But then, I love Clockwork Orange. I love Ravenous. I don't know if you ever saw that. With Guy Pearce.
Did you check that out, Josh? Ravenous?
Max just came in to give me a hug and a kiss goodnight. He's leaving. So I told him. I was
just making sure you were still alive.
Oh, no, he's not leaving yet. He just came in to see if I was alive. Apparently I was quiet. So I apologize for that, but
no, that's okay. Good night, Max. Nice to meet you.
Usually he comes in and he waves to whoever we're talking to. I don't want to be rude there, but my kids always come first. Even when I'm on a podcast, sorry. Sorry about that.
No problem. Ravenous is like I guess it's considered a B movie, but it does have like Robert Carlyle and Guy Pearce in it.
Okay.
It's a cannibal film. And even like Damon Albarn did the soundtrack, and it's like a Civil War cannibal film. So I don't know, or it was a Spanish-Mexican War or something, and a cannibal film.
I'll have to add that to the list and check it out.
It's really fun.
It's good.
Oh, you've seen it?
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I saw it a while ago now. That's an older film.
It's an older film. Yeah. It's one of those ones that not a whole lot of people hear about. Even though it's got all-star cast, and again, Damon Albarn's doing the soundtrack. So,
Cool. So now you have worked in industry for over 17 years. In 2018, you were named one of the top 25 screenwriters to watch by the Austin Film Festival and the Movie Maker magazine. What inspired you to get into this line of work?
First of all, that was really cool of them, and really blessed to be a part of that film fest. It's one of my favorites for sure. It's a filmmaker focused film fest. Like it's a lot of fun, and a real honor to be part of that. I think I got started in film. I wanted to be an actor actually when I first started, and I have done a little bit of acting. You said I was an actor, but I'm not technically an actor, but I have done some acting. I moved to Vancouver actually, the big smoke from my very, very tiny town of like 20,000 people, to start acting. Had Jim Carrey was my hero when I was 15 or something, and I knew all his bits, and the Monty Python was something I was super into. And I started to kind of write little plays and stage plays, so I could do them in my tiny town. And that's I think where like even directing started, and I didn't know it then, but I was sort of directing plays that I was writing in order to get them made. And then I moved to the Big Smoke and didn't love acting, not gonna lie. It's a real tough racket. It's a lot of auditioning and a lot of waiting around and people judging you, and that's just part of the process. And then I fell behind the camera. So from there I went into Grip Electric Camera, and I spent a long time there, 10 good years.
Okay.
Working behind the lens. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was like a little fun tidbit. I was the gaffer on Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Oh, okay.
Panos Cosmatos's first film. And that's where I met like Norm Lee, who shot that. Also shot my first feature, and we became really good friends. And then I finally just started writing. I was like, I don't want to work with first-time directors anymore. I kind of want to be a first-time director. So I just started doing it.
That's cool. Everyone starts somewhere, so like Josh just filmed his first movie, well, he was an actor in the film. So, he's actually in 2 films now.
Very cool. So congratulations.
Three, actually. 2 short films and a full length. The full length, I got to do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I did not get to touch the lights. They were like, don't touch lights, but I got to do everything else.
That's very cool.
Even a little bit of assistant directing. And man, it's so much more fun behind the camera than it is in the front. So
there's a lot to do, a lot of people to meet. It's a lot of good fun.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work. They had me doing the Zoom for a while too, and that was really interesting. Blind in one eye, so I was like trying to Zoom, and it was getting more and more fuzzy. I was like, maybe I need some training. It was a lot of fun. They used nothing that I touched behind the scenes. So,
well, you got to start somewhere, right?
That's it.
Failure is the best medicine, as they say.
It's cool that you started in like a 48-hour film fest, because we have those here, and a lot of up and comers do them, and they, like the guys I was in the movie with, they made a 48 and they won, and then they got funding to make a movie. So that's how it goes, right?
Yeah. I wrote my feature version of Koinete that I haven't yet got off the ground, but that's kind of where a lot of my first writing started, for sure. And you guys were chatting with Sam Zimmerman, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, and he was working with Kirla Janice, who used to run Bloodshots.
Oh, okay.
Hers is the Psychotic Women there documentary. She's awesome, and she used to do Bloodshots until it got a little too serious and people started cheating. So then she was like, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh man,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So besides all the work that you have done in the film industry, you also have a passion for creating music. You released an EP last year under your alter ego Snorkel, titled Made for Friends. What was it like working on that project?
I've kind of kept that going a little bit too. It was when I did the score with our composer for Hollow in the Land, my first film. And I love that score. It was done by Ado Van Bremen, also of Brastronaut, which is a cool band if you haven't heard it. And we were kind of working in the same room together, kind of going through a lot of stuff. The movie was so small that we could just be intimate. He built a little studio in his upstairs of his parents' house, and we got to rock. So I just kind of caught the bug there, and he gave me a program to make music with. So during the pandemic, when everything stopped, I had nothing else to do. So I said, I'll just open this program, 2 years after he'd given it to me, 3 years after he'd given it to me. And I just instantly fell in love with it. There's something about music, because it's instantaneous. You can sort of emotionally engage with it right away. That was really attractive compared to writing and directing, which takes forever. Writing, I think, in its purest form is also like an interactivity. But you kind of got to get, to me, my process is I need to build it out into a structure first, and a big outline, like a really long outline. And then I spend about 3 weeks just straight writing. So the actual script only takes about 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. And in that case, it's like really emotionally instantaneous, because you are, at least I am, performing the actors as I'm writing them. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of engage in that way, which is kind of cool. But there's just nothing like music that can give you that emotional connectivity so quickly. Yeah. And I fell for that in a big way. Yeah, for sure. And I can't play an instrument or anything. So it's all, I got like a little keyboard thing and I can sing a little. I don't know. It was just fun. Yeah. And it was something to put out, you know, people could listen to it, and it didn't really exist until somebody heard it, you know. Yeah, like a film. It doesn't exist until somebody sees it.
So a while back we had created like a playlist. So we would talk to some of our guests and kind of like try to pick their brains and kind of figure out what some of their favorite songs were. And like we kind of stopped doing that. So, and I ran into one of the listeners and he's like, man, you guys should bring that back. And I think that's the perfect time to do that.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what are some of your favorite songs, you know, like your top 3?
I'm a big album guy. I like to know the story that somebody's telling throughout an album. So I won't usually pick up normal songs or anything. I'll kind of like do it as a wholesale. Okay. And what is it? Jim James's Eternally Even, I think it is one of my favorite albums. Dan Deacon's Bromst is really cool. I do love that album. Oh God, what else? I'm a big Sam Smith fan. Mm-hmm. I just love Sam Smith. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. Yeah, if I could have maybe a favorite song. Oh shit, I don't think I can do that.
Can't do it.
I don't think I can.
Yeah.
I don't think I can. So, I've been really into Idols recently too.
Okay.
Idols is like, they're super heavy, British band. Yeah, those are some ones from New York. I think 2 Americans and 1 British. They're all men, sadly. But yeah,
I'll be looking that up as soon as this is over. Then,
yeah,
I haven't heard of them. So,
Jim James, like the Eternally Even, is really cool. I think Jim James is like the producer for My Morning Jacket or something.
Okay,
I think something like that. But yeah,
awesome. So what I got out of that conversation was, when we start the PVD horror record label, contact you right away. You're going to be the star of the record label.
I'm just a face, guys. You know,
Corkel.
Just yeah. My mom told me I got a face for podcasting. So
there's a funny tidbit in Friendship Game, is that our sound designer Eugenio Battaglia and myself, we created sort of an alter ego band to create music for the club scenes. So when you see the party scenes and all that kind of stuff, all of that music we built under the pseudonym Club Fanta. And then because we had built it and we created our weird fake personas, all of a sudden we had to like sign contracts on it, because I think our whole soundtrack is owned by Atlantic Records or something crazy. So yeah, that's awesome. It was pretty funny. But yeah, Club Fanta, check us out. You know, we don't have any online presence.
Get some streams over
there. Is it named after the drink, the Fanta?
No, PHANT, like Phantasm, or yeah.
I like it. So speaking of the Friendship Game, you can give us a synopsis on the whole film. Maybe not giving everything away.
Yeah, I'll give you a huge I'll do the wiki page plot detail. No, it's essentially a group of teenagers who are all leaving high school to move on to college or what have you. They stumble upon this game, the Friendship Game, where when you play it, you give it your deepest desire, and it takes your deepest desire and tests your friendships based on it. So the idea is if your friendships don't survive the game, neither do you. So essentially, it is a puzzle box, a little bit Hellraiser-y, that does test your friendship and is a metaphor for, leaving high school and all those sort of things. Because anytime you do leave high school, it's, it feels like it's life and death because your friends are everything to you. So that's essentially, I don't know if that's a synopsis, but that's what it's about.
That's a pretty good synopsis, and there you could see some parallels there. So was it your intention to make the box like a character throughout?
Yeah, I mean, even in Damien Ober and his script, it was always there. It was always a character. At one point, it was sort of like a bit more of a demigod, and it is morphed over the years to be what it is now. And really, what it is, what he'd always wanted it to be was, it's more a device that, when used appropriately, will actually create a game board to test your friendship. So it, even when you are using it well, it's be careful what you wish for. Yeah. And it's like, it's subtle. It's not, would you rather or anything like that, where it is, these are the rules of the game. There's one rule. Your friendships don't survive, neither do you. And then it kind of goes from there. So I don't think we can get into too much detail, but it is definitely not, you're not really going to fully understand where you are, probably even by the end of the movie. And I'm okay with that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I dug it. I was really excited to, number one, get this film, and then I was even more excited watching it. So
it's great.
Those two. What's funny is I watched it, and everybody in my house loves Peyton List. They watch all her stuff apparently, because I told them that she was in it, and they yelled at me for not watching it with them. Yeah, go figure. And I was like, I don't think you guys would like it. Like, they're not horror fans, But is there any like funny behind the scenes stories, like working with a bunch of teens, that you could share that wouldn't
spoil anything?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we should mention that the cast, I've said this in every interview, that like our cast rules. They're rad, they're super organic, they're really natural. They really took the roles and made them their own. And I'm very thankful to them for all the hard work that they did. Peyton especially, because she is the leader of the film, and you're never really sure how she's going to take it. She's the face of the movie. Any star's going to take whatever they take from it. But she even said it's the realest performance that she's done, which is cool. And I think for her fans, they're going to be surprised to see what they're going to see. And I think pleasantly surprised, because she is legitimately good in the movie. I mean, stories of teenagers in the background. Not super. Everything was pretty fun. I mean, we just had a good time. They actually became really good friends, and they still hang out. So while Peyton's up here shooting, Caitlin and Kelsey, they're hanging out. They're going for drinks. They're doing a photo shoot together with our makeup artist, Miel. Cool. So yeah, they became really good friends, like pretty instant friends. Yeah, and Brendan, cool. Of course, because he was shooting with us at the time. But
that's awesome, because it's cool, because I work with teenagers, and then my kids are also at that age now, and so it's funny. My son just transitioned into high school, and my daughter transitioned to middle school, and I tell them, like, it's hard, because you're not going to have the same friends all the time. People kind of grow and go separate ways and everything like that. So they actually watched this film with me, and so they really enjoyed it too. So for the audience, like Josh said, you did a great job to kind of like incorporate all that going on, and the things that are going on in like teens' lives right now too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that there's some feedback out there already. Even this film is targeted for that age group, for Peyton's fans in general. I think we've always kind of tried to make this movie for them. And it's a wild movie with a lot of sort of adult themes and that sort of thing. but at the core of it, I think is Peyton. It is the Zuza character. She is the sort of emotional core, the grounded through line that kind of guides you through all the madness and all the crazy and all the weird stuff. That might be hard to explain, but at least she's there because her arc really kind of guides you through the whole process. So I am hoping that that's what the audience will sort of take away, regardless of how confused they are.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to touch on, because like through the film, it gets like steadily more and more and more insane as it goes along, and finally, like towards the end, you're like, what? And a lot of that has to do with the filming. Like, your camera shots were great. The way you told the story with your film is like good directing. You know, you could tell. Yeah. You could tell when you got a good director. You know, you could take the best script in the world, and if you have a bad director, it's not going to work out. Like, it's just not. Can you tell us anything about how you approached your directing to build up that perfect tension and insanity all the way through?
Yeah, I think behind any good director is a really good editor. That's a lot of it. I mean, there's a good crew as well, like Farhad Gaderi, who shot it, has really stamped his own style on it. There's a great tone in there. Our production designer, Richard Simpson, you know, he did a really good job too, kind of building out the object and making the object a player, and making, you know, every sort of character at least land in their own little world. But yeah, we had two editors, Tony Zhou and Matt Lyon. We did a long post process, and we did some reshooting as well. So we did have the opportunity to adjust the story in post, which isn't always afforded in any movie. But we really kind of found the movie a little bit more pretty late in post, because it's like an alternate sort of universe, not really alternate universe per se, but the multiverse, yeah, I guess it is, that, you know, you can kind of take that story a lot of different ways. So we did sort of find it and build it out in post, and then sort of pick up some pieces. But yeah, I think, you know, the camera at one point wanted to be its own character, and it wanted to kind of tell its own story. And then the characters themselves, I think, also lend to a very similar style where they're telling their own stories. And then once you kind of put all the pieces together, you start to see it come about. And like, even the sound design was super important. The score is super important to kind of create that mood, that tone. And weirdness is really kind of pushing it into that weirdness, while, you know, from a storytelling perspective, is keeping the emotional arc true. So if Peyton or Zuza's arc doesn't work, the whole movie falls apart. So that was a big piece as well to be very conscious of, and that's a lot of where our rewriting was concerned, to try and build that up better. I think we found something cool, but yeah,
huge shout out to those Fanta guys that did the music, man. It was so good.
It's funny, yeah, because you guys saw it. I forgot that you guys saw it too, so you did hear our music.
Yeah.
I should mention, actually, Blitz Berlin did our score, and they did Psycho Gorman, and they did some tracks on The Void, another sort of Lovecraftian movie, and they're I'm really excited about what they brought. They're really cool.
Yeah, it flowed nicely. Like, there's another thing, like your cinematography was great. And I know that you had worked behind the camera, but your effects were pretty good too. For an independent film, like, sometimes they slack. This one was spot on, and the combination of the two all the way through told like a pretty good story. And what I'm really interested in, like, how much of that was the DP and how much was your vision on your cinematography?
Yeah, I don't think anything's really exclusive to my vision. I think with any movie, it's a collaborative process, and I think directors talk a lot about that, but it truly is. A movie lives and breathes by, you know, the situation, the timing, the money you have, the people you get, or the people who are available that you can get. So it is really, it's like it's herding as many of the best elements as you can, as many of the best possible elements as you can into one sort of fluid train on a track. And you make it as best as you can with everything you have by leaning on those people to do things. So, you know, Farhad, who shot it, he had visions, he had vision boards. We walked through what I was thinking. There's certain moments where, you know, we're kind of scrapping on set a little bit, which is why I hired him in the first place, because I thought he might argue with me a bit. He argued a lot less than I thought, but still, and if he hears that, I hope he understands that it was all due to love. I did want a little bit of pushback because he's got his own unique style, you know, and I wanted to best utilize that. And there's a couple times where I'm like, you know, sorry, but we just have to shoot, and other times where he's like, I don't like this, and then we'll stop and just completely rework it and try and figure out a better way to do it. So it's, yeah, I think the director's job in general is more like the captain of a ship, but you're kind of just guiding that ship to where it needs to go, and there is a direction you need to go, and there is a final destination, but how you get there, I think, depends on what crew you have. So yeah, I think my main job, I think, as a director is to lead creative people and to give creative people enough space to be creative. That's what I think directing is.
That's cool. Is there anything that you like couldn't shoot that you wish you did?
Oh, that's a fun question. Yeah.
About that, because I worked on a film and there was like this one scene that they really wanted in the film, and then the shooting schedule ran long and they couldn't get it. And then on reshoots, the person that they needed for that scene wasn't available, and it changed the tone of the movie. And you can't really tell, but it does. And I was just curious on.
Yeah, I think you're always going to tell because you're the person working on it. The audience won't; they'll never know. I mean, we did. I thought we left stuff on the table when we were shooting, just because of the nature of the schedule, and we had a lot of rewrites while we were working. We were working during COVID too, so there was a few things that we needed to sort of adjust and go left or right with. But then once you get into post, I mean, you kind of discover something new. Like, you know, the old saying of you make a movie 3 times, one in writing, one when shooting, and one in editing. I do think you only really make a movie once, and it's in editing. And what you're doing with the script and what you're doing with production is setting yourself up the best you can in order to edit the movie together. Because that's where the story actually finds itself. You can have all this stuff on paper and all the stuff that you've shot, which are incredibly important. I'm not taking away from that, but I think you do only really find the movie once you're in editing. So if we had shot different things, we might have even cut it out, because you're killing your darlings all the time in post. But we were able to do reshoots. So we did do 3 days of substantial reshoots after we were in post and figured out we actually need to tell this part of the story a little bit more. So yeah, have I left anything on the table? Probably. I don't know. It's tough to know. We didn't have the money to really kind of balk about it. So, if I had a lot more money, sure, I would have shot a lot of different things.
It always comes down to that mighty dollar, right?
Yeah. The mighty dollar affords you time, which on indie movies you just don't have.
Yeah.
But like I said, you did a great job with the film, and I just can't wait for it to release so everyone can check it out. And so the Friendship Game, like we said, it opens in theaters and on digital and on demand on November 11th. So definitely check that out. Scooter, what else can you let the listeners know what else you have coming up and where they can find you online?
Yeah, I've been blessed with a real name, Scooter Corkle. Corkel, I should say that louder. I'm a good mumbler. So yeah, I'm basically at Scooter Corkle at everything. Facebook, Instagram, even Twitter, which I never use. It's just my website is scootercorkle.com. Like it's all really easy to find. Outside of my musical alter ego, which I'm surprised you guys did find, because I only have one thing. But yeah, that's easy enough to find me. Instagram is probably the best spot, but yeah, what do I have coming up? I mean, I just got a new office, so I'm really trying to build that out and get writing and start collaborating a little bit more. I think I've always been sort of a pretty solitary writer, outside of a couple instances. So I think I do want to, like I do on set, which is exciting, and you're trying to get the best creativity out of creative people. I do want to do the same in the writer's room. So keep a lookout for that. But right now, we've slowly got a writers group called the Writers Block, but none of that's been branded yet, so it's still kind of in the very beginning stages. But yeah, outside of that, I'm writing, or I've got a couple little irons in the fire, but nothing that's on fire currently.
Well,
I might have another album coming. So we'll see.
I want to check that out. I need to hear it. So definitely send it over in the email.
You gotta send it to us.
Yeah. So we can add it to our Spotify playlist.
Yeah, I will. I got to get on Spotify. That's a big one. Yeah. It was just a hobby, and then people are like, "You should actually do this." So I'm gonna actually do it for a little bit. Not to make any money or anything. It's just for fun, but it's still it's nice. It's nice to have people listen. It kind of changes how you hear things. The same with like a movie. Being in a room with somebody just completely changes how you see the movie. It's a really weird phenomenon. It's cool.
Yeah, somebody said we should start a podcast, and here we are talking to you. Like,
yeah, exactly. How long have you been doing the podcast? There's some cool people on there.
2 years now.
Yeah, 2 years. The podcast itself has been 2 years, but we've been together for 3.
Very cool.
Yeah, we do a lot of local events. We started doing that, and then it just, COVID hit, and what do you do? So. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, I was actually hosting a podcast for a little bit before COVID as well. We only did one season, and it's called Podcast and Crew.
Okay.
And it's me and this other fella, Corey Orban, and we have been chatting to people who are below the line. So like PMs, focus pullers, makeup effects people, editors, which I wouldn't really put below the line, but we had a good deal with the union going on then. But yeah, that was fun. That was a lot. I learned a lot from that. Prop master and a sound recordist. All these people who worked on like, huge big movies. So that was a lot of fun too. We kind of stopped doing that during COVID, but we'll see if we pick it up again.
Dude, that's an awesome idea. Like, I would listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's online somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where. Podcast and Crew. I think it was on like Simplecast or something. Okay. Is that where you guys go?
We're on all streaming services, so
all the things.
Yeah. So we'll look for so we can check out some of your interviews and stuff like that, because that's definitely cool, like down our alley, because like Josh said, like the special effects and everything like that, that stuff, a lot of the good stories come from there. We had one of the guys that actually worked on one of the Nightmare on Elm Street films and Night of the Demons and The Blob.
Cool.
So just all the stories that he kind of like had brought into it. And he was just talking about like he was doing one of the special effects, and it like kind of like stabbed Freddy with one of the gloves at one of the scenes. He's like, if you pay attention, you can see it. So just those little tidbits, just like you said, like with your music being added into the film, it definitely changes like the experience of the film, like when we go back and watch it again. So
yeah, really.
That's fun. It's such an interesting. Movies are so hard, and they're so fun, and they just kind of like exist in their own little world. And once you make a film, you don't own it anymore, and usually that's because a distributor also owns it. But what I mean by that is that the dialogue you're having is filmmaker to audience. And once you deliver the movie, and once it's in the audience's hands, they react to it, and now it belongs to them. So however they interact, however they experience it, whatever emotion comes from it is all their own personal emotion. It's their own personal experience. So they can own that, and that's theirs now. So the movie's no longer mine or any of us. artists that worked on it. It belongs to the audience. And even when you watch things like, you know, Harry Potter's or something, and you might not like J.K. Rowling anymore, it is your reaction to the movie originally that you own. That's your ownership, and screw anybody else, because you as an audience member, that you own that. And I truly believe that as a filmmaker. Makes it easier when you get bad reviews.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, you know what? Take the bad reviews and just roll with it and just do the next thing, man.
Yeah, exactly. That was more of a joke, but I do feel like you just don't own anything anymore, and that's cool. It's part of you've birthed a movie, and it can live in its own space. It lives, it does its thing. It's a baby that is now an adult, and there you go. It's cool. Yeah,
and I'm a big fan of independent film, so here I'll tell you how it works. Is you put it out, everybody loves it, they forget about it, and then 20 years later they're like, hey, remember this great movie? And then you're a mega superstar 20 years after you made the original movie that you didn't make a dime on. That seems to be where it's going, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you don't really, I mean, at least on this one, it was my second movie, so I made a few dimes, but my first movie, I spent a lot of dimes to get that one off the ground. But that's how it works. You know, you gotta put the time in to get the reward, and not like I didn't get any real reward. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not making millions of dollars here.
Before we let you go, if there was one piece of advice you could give somebody, what would it be?
It's always a fun question. I think if you think about the recipe to being a filmmaker, I think right at the very top is perseverance, and dedication is like right below it. And then like fourth down the list is creativity, or just being good at it. Like talent is way down, but perseverance is sort of key, because this industry will knock you a lot. It is very, very hard to stay in the industry, especially if you are leading something creatively, if you are a director or an actor, or, you know, somebody who is beholden to the audience or beholden to the critics. You're going to get your ass kicked, and you kind of just got to be able to, you know, not necessarily have thick skin, but just persevere and push, and realize that, yeah, I made mistakes, and I'm going to learn from them, and I'm not going to dwell on them. That to me is what makes every filmmaker that I know that's really made it. That's sort of the first ingredient, is just perseverance. Just keep going, you know.
That's great awesome advice right there. So
yeah. Man, thank you so much for coming on. I apologize for all the quirks and the things that went wrong. For those of you listening, there was a lot of things beforehand that everything that could go wrong went wrong, right? And I got drag racers outside. We got an MC moved in on the street, so I'm sure
drag racers outside.
Yeah, we have an MC that moved in down the street, and it's really weird. There's a fire station, a church, and then like a
motorcycle club. Yeah,
and there's drag racers on the street all night long. So
wow, that's not as fun as it sounds.
Yeah, not when you got to get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So I apologize for that to everybody. We try to edit that all out, but man, it was great to talk to you. Like, I loved this film. I'm so grateful that we got to see it before it came out. Everybody definitely check it out when it does come out. And thank you again for your time, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate you chatting with me, and I'm glad you like the film. That's pretty special. So yeah, thank you.
All right, man. We appreciate you coming on.
All right, doodles.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.
See ya.